In today's video, I'll be showing you how to make a basic cookie clicker game. So I've already made a folder, and in it I have the index.html. So this file will have the whatever you'll see here. So this is like the structural code, and then I have the main.javascript file. So what that will have is like the main logic for handling like when you click on the cookie and all the upgrades. So the first thing we'll start off with is by typing in HTML. We'll do HTML:5. So you press tab and it's going to have all this automatically done for you. That's only in some code editors, so like I'm using Visual Studio Code. It might not work in your specific code editor. In that case, you can just copy down what I've written here. So in between the title, we have document. So that is going to be the name up here. And for mine, I'll just name it Cookie Clicker Game. You can see here it has updated the name there. Okay, so the first thing we will do is create a button. So this button is going to be for clicking like as our cookie. So we'll just name it Cookie. You can see it's right there in the corner. And what we can do is give this an ID. So what IDs do is you use it on one specific like element. So this is an element. So it only really works on one element. So in this case, we could name it cookie button. Yeah, so it should be like this. So what this would do, so yeah, I've given this button the ID of cookie button. So when it comes to writing the JavaScript, we can reference this button and we can detect when the button has been clicked. Okay, so the next thing that we will do is create the text to display how many cookies we have. We can do lots of different types of elements. There's like headers, but for this one, I will just do P. So what P is, you can just have text, just basic text. Like I can say hello, and you can see there it says hello. So yeah, in here we'll just say you have 0 cookies, and you can see it says that there. And then we'll also give this an ID as well, so we can also reference this in the JavaScript and update the number of cookies we have. So we'll call this cookie amount. You can also name it anything you want as long as you have named it the same in your JavaScript file once we get there. Okay, so the next thing we will have is another button. So this will be for the upgrades. So we just do button again, and then in here we can do grandma for 100 cookies. And then we can also give this another ID as well. So we can do, we can call it grandma upgrade. And that is pretty much most of the JavaScript code done. But before that, we need to reference the script. So we use the script element here, and we have to add src, so that stands for source, and then in here we can put the name of our script. So in this case, I've named it main.js. So the next thing that we'll need to do is reference all of these different types of elements. So the first thing that we will need to do is reference the cookie button. Then we can do also the cookie amount, and then we can finally also do the grandma upgrade. So you got these 3 different variables here. So the first one will be, we'll use document.get element by ID. So in here, we'll type in the name, the ID that is of the cookie button. So in our case, we go back here, it's just cookie button. So in here we just do cookie button as well. Make sure that is the exact same as you've written here. And then we just do the same for the rest. Document.get element by ID, and then we do cookie amount. Okay, and then next we're going to have variables such as how many cookies you have and the cost of upgrades and how many of these upgrades you have. So the first one we'll do is cookies. So this will be set to 0 because you'll start off with 0 cookies, and then the next one will be the upgrades. So we only have 1 upgrade, but in the future you can always expand with more upgrades. So we'll have grandmas. So that will be how many grandmas you have. And then we'll have grandma cost. So the starting cost is 100. And the next thing we can do is create a function. So this function will be ran or called or used multiple times for changing the number of cookies we have. So the whole point of a function is so that you're not repeating the code multiple times. So instead you can just call the function. So in this case, this function will be called update cookie amount. You can also again name it anything you would like. So in this case we'll do cookie amount, and then we use something called dot inner text. So what this will do is you can change what this text says. At the moment it says you have 0 cookies, but we can change this to something else. So we can do you have, so we'll keep it similar to what it is right now. And if we do a space and then we do outside of these quotation marks here, do a plus, we do 2 pluses, and in between these pluses we can do cookies. And again, we have quotations again, and then a space, and then cookies. So like, let's say we change this to 10. If you fire this, or you run this, it should update. So now we do 100. You can see it's updating. So we'll set that back to 0. And the next thing that we'll do is create another function for when the cookie is clicked. So in this case, we can actually add a thing into this button here. So we go back to the HTML file and we do on click, and then here we can actually call the function that is in the JavaScript. So we can make a function called click cookie. Again, you can also name it anything you would like, and then you can do cookies, and then we just call the update cookie amount function. Save that, and then in here we can use this click cookie. So you can see every time I click the cookie button, it is now increasing the number of cookies I have. Again, this is what the current code looks like. Okay, now the next thing is the upgrades for the grandmas. So again, we'll come back here and we will do the on click in here. And then we'll come back to that later. And then now the next thing we'll do is create a function called, we can call it purchased grandma, or you can do it by grandma, whatever you like. And then now we're going to do our first if statement. So in here we're going to do cookies is more or equal to the cost of a grandma. So that's pretty much checking, does the number of cookies, is it more or equal to 100? So then if that's true, then we're going to reduce the amount of cookies we have by the amount that the grandma costs. We're going to also increase the amount which the grandma costs. So you can have it multiply by a certain amount, or you could also just add. So you could do like, maybe it increases by 100 cookies every time. But in this case, I'm going to make it increase by 25%. So obviously that's 1.25. We also increase the amount of grandmas we have. So we do grandmas and then we do plus plus. So that's just going to increase this by 1. It is also good to update the amount of cookies we have, since we have removed some. And then also to update the button, since we're also updating the cost as well. So we can just do grandma upgrade dot inner text just like this here, and we can say grandma for, and then we just do similar to what we've done before, grandma cost for cookies. So now if we have the purchase grandma function in here, the on click, now if we just give ourselves 100 cookies, so now we have 101, then we purchase it, now we have 1 cookie. You can see it's also increased the price. So the next thing is to also, since grandmas are going to make 1 cookie every second, we need to have like a sort of loop. In JavaScript, you can use something called set interval, and we can put a function in here. So you do something like this, and then in here we can do cookies plus equal, and then we do the number of grandmas we have, and then we also do update cookie amount, and we also need to set how long this will be. So if we give ourselves 100 cookies, so now you can see here, if we use this, every second we're going to get a cookie. So if you keep clicking, eventually you'll be able to afford the next upgrade. You can see here though that like it's in decimals, so you can't really have 0.25 of a cookie. So in that case, we can actually just round the number. So we can just go, we can do here, you can do grandma cost equals math.round grandma cost. So now if we get all the way back up to that number, it should just round it. There you go. As you can see, it's rounded it. So that's pretty cool. So that's the basics of making cookie clicker games. As you can see, there's not that much code. It's pretty simple. The next video will be showing you how to add like an image instead of a button for the cookie. So you'll be clicking on an actual cookie, and also be showing like colors using CSS. So CSS is used to add some color and change the layout of what the website will look like. So yeah, stay tuned for that, and thanks for watching.